Hey there, this is Robin Coates, and I want to welcome you back to this series on your true identity. So, we're talking about who we are in Christ, and we're going to talk in this video about something I talked about in the last video, and that is about low-hanging fruit. Now, this principle might seem like you might be thinking, like, this doesn't seem to fit. Well, here's why I'm doing this video in this series and right now, because as you walk through this process of, of coming to understand who you are in Christ, you're going to want to begin to start walking it out. And sometimes walking it out can be overwhelming because we might see, okay, this is the promise of God for me. And it's like this amazing promise, but I don't know how to get started. Or maybe you start too big and then you get frustrated and feel defeated. So this is going to help you begin taking small little steps, walking in the true identity that the Bible tells us that we are. So I call this principle the low-hanging fruit principle. So let's say you were going to make an apple pie and you have this beautiful apple tree in your backyard and it is full of apples. So which apples are you going to go pick? Are you going to just, go out the back door and, take a bucket or a bag and start just grabbing the apples within your reach? Or are you going to go into the garage, carry out a ladder, and drag it? I've got a ladder in my garage and it is really heavy. It's one of those, I think, like telescoping ladders, and it's super heavy and it's kind of a little awkward to get up. So which one am I going to choose? Which one are you going to choose? Are you going to choose the apples within your reach, or are you going to drag out that ladder, climb up to the top of the tree, or even the middle of the tree and grab apples? Okay, this is a little bit of a rhetorical question. We would most likely just grab the apples right at our reach, unless we had some other reason for climbing the tree. And this is the beauty of this principle. It comes from a verse in Luke 16:10, that says, if we're faithful in the little things, we prove ourselves faithful in the big things. So in any area, this is a principle you can use in any area. Your walk with the Lord, if you're trying to establish a quiet time, a devotional time devotional comes from the word devote, where you devote your life to Christ and you just spend time in his presence. Well, if you're trying to get that habit started, or maybe you're wanting to take it to the next level, you can use this principle. You don't have to go to the top of the tree and try to spend. When I started having quiet times, I had this number in my head, or this time frame of 1 hour. And boy, did I fail over and over and over again, because I was a baby Christian and I was just growing. And had I known this principle back then, it would have eliminated a lot of frustration. And so low-hanging fruit is, I'm gonna share with you a framework I created. I call it the 4-step low-hanging fruit strategy. Okay, so here's what it is. 4-step STEP. You're going to use those 4 letters. You're going to determine your low-hanging fruit. And like I said, you can use this spiritually in your walk with the Lord. If you're a student, you can use it as a student, or on the job, or in relationships, or financially, or if you're wanting to get fit, or change some type of habit there, you can use this. Okay, so let's talk about this. How do you know what is your low-hanging fruit? Well, first of all, what your low-hanging fruit in an area might be totally, or is probably going to be totally different than mine. So you don't want to look and compare with other people. You want to create your low-hanging fruit plan specifically, uniquely tailor-made for you. Okay. So the S stands for simple. Simple means that at the end of the day, it's either a yes or no. There's no confusion. Did I do it? Yes or no. So let's just take an example. Let's say I want to get fit. Okay. So I'm going to get fit by walking 30 minutes a day. Let's say we're going to start there. Okay. But let's say I am really not healthy. And I can barely, walk to my front door or walk outside without getting totally winded. For me to go and think I'm going to start walking 30 minutes starting today, that's probably not realistic. But what can I do? So maybe my low hanging fruit would be, I'm going to start with one, I'm going to go around the block. Okay. And for you, if you're like, that's way too easy, well, then you find your low hanging fruit. Maybe for you, it's going 3 or 4 blocks. And if you, on the other hand, are like, I can't even get to my front door without getting winded, then you're going to scale it. Maybe your low hanging fruit is, I'm just going to walk out to the mailbox and back and increase it, every 3 or 4 days by whatever, 10 more steps, something like that. Okay. So that would be an example of simple. It needs to be at the end of the day, I can check a box. Yes, I did it, or no, I did it. Now you don't have to check a box if that is overwhelming you. For some people, they love it. They love seeing the achievement. And so it is very motivating them to have a checklist. If that's not you, don't worry about that. Okay, so S is simple. You can check a box at the end of the day. Yes, I did it. No, I did it. No confusion. It's very clear cut. The T stands for time sensitive, meaning something I can begin doing immediately. If I'm wanting to get fit, I'm wanting to walk 30 minutes a day, but my foot's in a cast, that's not time sensitive. So my low hanging fruit might be, I'm going to do something sitting on the floor, and maybe it's going to be sit-ups, or maybe I'm going to get some dumbbells and just start, working my upper body, or maybe I'm going to work my other leg. I don't know. But it needs to be something that you can begin doing immediately. That's the T. The E in STEP stands for easy in contemplation as well as easy in execution. I heard this from someone, and I think this is brilliant. So execution or contemplation is when you think about that, when you're like, okay, I'm going to start walking a block a day. Is that overwhelming to you? If it is, then you need to scale it back. It's too overwhelming. But not only should it be easy in contemplation, it should be easy in execution. And when I first heard this, it was in regards to dieting. And it talked about how a diet is easy in contemplation when after you've had a big binge and you're like, okay, tomorrow, you're feeling full, you're feeling stuffed, and you're like, food doesn't even sound interesting to you. It's easy in contemplation to go, I'm going to totally cut out all processed foods. Well, then the next day you try to do that and you're like, it was easy in contemplation yesterday, but it is not easy in execution. So you want to find something that is easy on your mind continually, not just today, but tomorrow, but also easy for you to execute. So you determine, is it easy for you on your mind and easy to complete it? And then the fourth thing is to check and see, its P stands for progressive, something that you can scale. So when we're talking about the walking, you want to walk 30 minutes and you start off with a block. Is that something that you can scale? Absolutely. You could start scaling whatever's appropriate for you. Maybe it's every week, or maybe it's every 4 days. But that is something that you can begin scaling. So find some area in your life where you're wanting to grow. Maybe you have a goal that you're wanting to meet, and apply the low-hanging fruit 4-step strategy and see how, begin the process, begin the habit of you looking at low-hanging fruit in everything. Like, hit the low-hanging fruit. That is where you prove that you can be faithful in the big things, and then just begin scaling. Because when we go for the top of the tree, that is when we fail. That's when we get frustrated because it's too overwhelming. It's like, look, here's an example. When you're in school, when you enter into, say, 3rd or 4th grade, we don't have the all or nothing, like, no, I'm going to learn trigonometry. It's like, no, you learn math that is at that level. And that's what we're doing. You are starting, and we're more focused on the process than we are trying to be perfect, because we cannot be perfect. And if you try to go for the big, it's always fun. It gives us a little dopamine hit going for the big, huge, final destination goal. And we try to step into that on day one, and it's a recipe for disaster. So start off with low hanging fruit, begin applying it today. You can begin doing it today, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.